Hello and welcome to another fun-filled edition of Adam's Music Box, where today we're talking all about Chicago. Not the city, but the band from the city that ironically made it big in LA, but who cares? They were a wonderful, wonderful band that absolutely owned the record charts. They had such hits in the 60s, in the 70s, in the 80s, and have continued to sell huge concert tickets frankly, throughout the career, they've never not been able to fill a large venue. And there's a reason for it because it's a band of virtuosos who had multiple songwriters, all of whom were really, really good. And even when lineups became less consistent, sort of from the mid 80s onward, they retained a commitment to excellence, as Al Davis might say, that really continues on to this day. Now, what made them special? What was their sound? Well, there's a lot of argument about this. Some would call them progressive rock, albeit that with a very distinctly American flair, where when the term progressive rock was used in the 60s and 70s, they usually were referring to English bands, the likes of Yes, ELP, Genesis, Moody Blues, Pink Floyd. But prog rock is for all. Rush kind of proved that, as did Ambrosia. And Chicago, you could say, proved that earlier on. Well, were they jazz fusion, jazz rock fusion, big band jazz rock fusion? I would say that that label would also apply to them. Because one of the things that made them so distinct was the large brass section, trumpets, trombones, and everything in between. That really gave them a very distinctive sound. And it sort of harkened back to the days of sort of the swinging big bands of Chicago. And again, very much a Chicago sound, but one that became internationally beloved. You could also say that they were a band of great songwriters because they were the hit after hit, 25 or 6 to 4. If you leave me now, color my world, make me smile. Um, oh God, the list goes on and on and on. Old days. Fancy Colors is a good one, not the biggest hit. Does anyone really know what time it is? That's a huge hit. It Better End Soon, a suite of music that I absolutely love. I'm a Man, not an original, but of course, they really made that Spencer Davis cover their own. Just You and Me, Feeling Stronger Every Day. I've Been Searching So Long, a really, really good one. Wishing You Were Here, wonderful. I mean, I could go on. But the band were great. And again, you could also say that they were a band that really married a guitar driven sound to a brass driven sound, because some people have compared them to Blood, Sweat, and Tears because of their use of brass and other wind instruments. I would say they're quite different because Blood, Sweat, and Tears wasn't necessarily as heavy a guitar driven band. They had great guitar player, but it was much more of a laid back jazz guitar sound, where Chicago's guitar player Terry Kath was absolutely a rock player. He was someone that Jimi Hendrix admired. He was frankly someone that guitar players of the time and today continue to admire. And the only reason that he's probably not given enough credit is because the brass being more unique, because every rock band and every band at that time had a guitar player. Not every band had a brass section, but compared to Blood, Sweat, and Tears, Chicago were much more of a guitar-driven band. I, of course, like both. Now, Terry Kath was the first member of Chicago whose absence changed the lineup, and it was through a tragic incident in 1978, pardon me, when he was playing Russian roulette, which is not a game you should play because the odds are not in your favor. I think his last words were, "Don't worry, it's not loaded." And we don't know how that ended. But they continued to go on and on with Peter Cetera, the bassist and one of the lead vocalists. You could say the main lead vocalist, but Terry sung as well. And so did Jim Pankow. Um, and Oh, sorry, Robert. I'm rather having a Joe Biden moment, folks. The wonderful keyboard player was one of the main songwriters, but they went from strength to strength with sort of Lamb and Cetera taking up more of the vocal duties. Cetera left in the early 80s to pursue a solo career, but the band continued on and they continued to sell tickets. Danny Seraphin, the drummer for most of these years and an original member, wonderful. Now, why are Chicago still popular to this day? Why have they never really gone out of fashion? I think one of the reasons is virtuosity. If you really know how to play, but can marry that to really good songwriting, you're going to be okay. If it's just the virtuosity and you pin yourself into a stylistic corner, you might have difficult times. If you're just a great songwriter, but don't have the ability to put on a show that gets everyone's attention and lets them know that you're in the presence of greatness, you're also going to have a bit of trouble. But Chicago could do and did do both. And man, oh man, did they do it well. So, Chicago, you can't go wrong. Listen to their full discography because they did not have a bad album. It was all wonderful stuff. Like, subscribe. We will see you next time. Take care.